Welcome to the Pretty Tough Podcast. I'm your host, Hailey Corona, and I'm so excited about the amazing, incredible women that I have on today. They have been role models for me, and they're true pioneers in the sport that have paved the way for women's wrestling now. So their list of accomplishments is really long, but for just a couple of things, they grew up wrestling in California, some of the first girls to start wrestling, mainly competed against boys and gained national recognition pretty early on. They both made U.S. national teams where they both went on to win world medals. They won Pan-American titles. They also went and wrestled at King College in Tennessee, where they were both four-time college All-Americans and both won national titles in college. So they're super incredible. They're also twins, and they are just wonderful people. So I'm really excited to talk about their wrestling journey, talk about sisterhood, and what advice they have for girl wrestlers. So thanks so much for being on. Marina and Regina Doi, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So before we kind of dive into your guys' story, I'm going to ask you guys the question that I'm asking all of the guests, and that is, what is the best piece of advice that you could give to a girl wrestler? Who wants to start us off?
I'll go. I think that for girl wrestlers, I think the most important thing is to focus on enjoying the process and not so much seeking an outcome. Our coach was very, very heavy on this when we were growing up wrestling. You want to try to go out there to perform and enjoy every moment out there. The hardest practices are the ones that I remember the most when I was in college, and I enjoyed every minute of them. But don't get so wrapped up on winning and losing and what place you take at a tournament. Just enjoy wrestling to perform. And if you focus on that, it takes a lot of the stress out of how you finish in a tournament. Our coach was really big on that. Try to, focus on hitting this move during that tournament or that move during this tournament. And we would even compete with each other. Who's going to hit more low singles or takedowns
so
and whatnot,
awesome.
So it was fun. I mean, we just were wrestling to perform at our best. I mean, I remember our coach getting mad at more matches that I won than I actually lost because I didn't perform.
Really?
I didn't perform at my best. I didn't score as many points as I should have. So, yeah, I mean, that would be my best piece of advice is wrestle to perform and don't chase an outcome and just showcase your skills.
That's fantastic. I love that piece of advice. Regina, what you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I mean, performance is the main thing. Our coach Isaac, when we were younger, he would say, you want to go out and showcase your skill set, and you want people to be looking and saying, hey, that person's wrestling, look at what they're doing, or ooh, look at, they're going to hit this, they hit this move or whatever. And you want it to be a performance and stuff. And the results will come, and don't worry about what's on the scoreboard. I mean, as long as you're performing at your peak level and stuff, then the wins are going to come. But just if you focus on the results at the end, that's not really what it's about. You're not having fun at that. It's just stressful. But if you're going out there, my best matches were always ones that I didn't really remember afterwards. I'm I don't know what I did, but I just wrestled, because you're not thinking, you're just feeling it out, and you're just doing what you do from practice. And if you practice hard enough, then it's going to show on the mat. So I'd feed off on that and keep performances and stuff. Ankle picks were my thing, and I always loved getting the oohs from people from hitting those. So nothing beats that. But yeah, just the focusing on performance and not so much the scores, the results, or anything like that.
That's really great advice. Because I've been coaching a high school program for the last couple of years, and so many times the girls were just always nervous, coming to me before matches, hey, I really want to win this match, and they're so focused on the outcome of the actual match and wanting to place or whatever it is that they're not actually focusing on the wrestling and the performance that you guys are talking about. So I love that you guys both hit on that, because I think that's seriously such great advice, because you'll actually start wrestling better if you're not focused on the results. So I love that. That's great. Thank you, guys. Okay, I also want to talk about, we kind of have a crazy way of meeting each other and kind of our stories. So let's take it back to, I don't even know, would it have been 2010, or it was quite a long time ago.
I think it was 2009, and the reason that I know that
junior high,
is, it was 2009. The reason that I know that, oddly enough, is because it was the day that Michael Jackson had passed away.
Oh my gosh,
it was
yes.
at weigh-ins, and I remember
that.
none of us had phones back then, but
Right.
everybody was talking about on their BlackBerry or whatever they had back then that Michael Jackson had passed. And I had known he was a singer. I didn't really know who he was, but it was just a big shock to everybody. And his anniversary of his passing, I think, was yesterday, actually.
My
but
word,
yeah,
that's
we were
crazy.
Yeah, we were in, must have been like junior high, and the picture that you had shared when you had first started this podcast, that's how I remember you. You were just this tiny little girl. You came up to us at weigh-ins, and there was a van of like, I don't know, 20 of us, and we needed a place to stay, and your family was glad enough to take us in
welcoming.
and so welcoming to welcome all these strangers that we had just met. And we were role models, I think, too, at that point. And so
for sure,
you were just cheesing.
You definitely still are. Yeah. It was crazy too, because that whole week, it was a week of wrestling at Western Regionals. Like that tournament, I think at the time it was still like freestyle, Greco, and folk style.
Right.
And I just remember, I remember watching you guys, and you were competing against boys. I think it was, I don't know if there were any other girls at the tournament besides us, but like you guys.
If there's one person I could think of, it would be like Kayla Miracle, because she was wrestling the same time as us too. But I don't know if she was at that one.
I don't remember her there.
She would be at Reno, but I don't think she was at that one. But
because that one was mainly, I mean, like all the Western states. So I can't, because since she was Indiana, I don't know if she would have been there. But
I don't remember any other girls.
I just remember I was like, I think my dad pointed you guys out, and like he knew who you guys were, and he was like, you got to go introduce yourself. I remember hanging out with Team California all week, and just being, those were my glory days, hanging out with the awesome Doi Twins. Like, you guys were kicking boys' butts. You were seriously killing it. And then that, like, later, that next week was Kids Nationals in Utah. And my dad is such, like, this social butterfly. He was like, oh, yeah, you guys got, 20, 30 people. Sure, come stay at our house. And it was seriously so much fun. I remember, didn't you guys, you came and, like, you rode our horses and...
Yep. The one and only time I've ever ridden a horse was at your house.
Yeah.
That was such a fun time. We had bonfires at night. I think we played ping pong with your brother. It was a great time. I'll never forget that trip. And we were just completely strangers, and we became really close. And even still, when I think of you, I think of this little girl that we had just met at weigh-in.
And then we took you home with us to California, because you're like, I've never been to California. So we're like, you're this little girl that we had just met. And we're like, yeah, let's take you all the way back home to California. And
your parents were like, go.
Yeah, seriously. They're like, yeah, you need to go do this, actually. Which I was just telling you guys before this started how crazy it was. Like, now that I have my own son, the thought of just like sending him off with people that we just met a week ago is kind of like a crazy thought. I'm really glad they did, because I actually remember like I learned a lot from you guys, like wrestling wise. The low single technique you guys taught me stuck with me for forever, and you took me all over California. We went to different beaches. I mean, it was
we took you to San Francisco, all kinds of places.
So I mean, you guys were truly some of my biggest role models growing up, so I'm really excited to be having this conversation. But just wanted to share how like that was such a fun, like weird kind of meeting that we had.
It was. But I'm not saying anybody should send their people with people they just met. No, don't do that in this age.
These are different times.
These are different times.
Seriously. Okay, so kind of getting into it, I really want to know kind of the details for our listeners of how you guys actually got into wrestling and what it was like growing up with, like, a twin as a partner.
Yeah, so we have 3 older brothers, and my sister and I are the youngest of 5, and we were completely unplanned, and then times 2. So, for example, my oldest brother's 15 years older than us, and then Sonny, so that's Sam. Sonny's 12 years older than us, and then my brother Booby, that's his nickname, is 6 years older than us. And Booby and Sonny both wrestled, and so naturally we were at practice all the time. And so when Regina and I were 3, 4 years old, we were always wrestling each other on the mat. And so that's how we started in the sport. And my brother Sonny was like, well, you guys are either going to wrestle or mom was going to put you guys in ballet. And I wasn't going to go to ballet competition. So, he really pushed us to wrestle. And my brother Sonny was a huge role model for us growing up. Even now, like he really guided us through not just wrestling, but school and life in general. And then my brother Boo, he helped us out as well. And now it's cool to help his kids with the wrestling aspect as well.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and wrestling boys, if you want to talk about wrestling boys growing up.
Yeah, I mean,
with not just boys, each other. With each other.
I mean, it was nice with each other because, like, obviously you're same size, so we always had a training partner no matter where we went, both in, elementary school, junior high, high school. Like, we always had somebody to train with. We had somebody to push each other. It was mostly me pushing Marina because, like, I would say, hey, let's go on the morning run or let's do a morning lift. And she's like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, well, I'm going anyway. So and she's like, okay, like, I have to go too. So even now, like, going to the gym, I went to the gym this morning. She doesn't like to go to the gym on the weekends and stuff. And I was like, well, we're not competing for anything. anything anymore, but I still like to just go and work out. But yeah, no, it was really nice, not just to have each other as a training partner, but we were also study buddies in college too.
That's so nice.
We took all the same classes in college, so we would test each other and quiz each other and stuff on different things and everything. And that was really nice because not only did we compete on the wrestling side of it, but we also competed on the academics, and it did well because we got good grades. So we wanted to beat each other and try to get better test scores and stuff, and that seemed to work out pretty well too. So
that's seriously so nice that you guys had each other like as people that could push each other, but also that like you had a healthy competition going on where even like now today you guys still are like low-key competing sometimes for things. I mean, like in like, hey, let's go to the gym, you know? So I think that's super awesome. Did it ever like be something that was like a hard kind of competition since you guys were, I mean, you were the same size and you wrestled in the same weights a lot, so you ended up being in the like the finals together a lot. I mean, what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, so it's weird because a lot of times people, when they say, oh, you guys twins, the follow-up question commonly is, oh, did you guys ever get into a fight? And I'll make it straight. We never got into a fight at all. We've never ever thrown hands or anything. There were some practices in college where it would start off as a light drill, and then we get a little bit more intense, and then we were eventually wrestling each other live. And our coach was like, whoa. And, but we were just pushing each other. But it was never, we never got into fights or anything. But yeah,
it's a life hack. Just have a twin and they'll help you through everything.
Right? Yeah. I mean, even now, like in our jobs, I mean, our relationship is so close. I mean, she works in hand surgery and I do primary care and sports med. And so I can pick her brain about certain things. She'll text me about certain antibiotics, that I commonly prescribe. She doesn't prescribe as often. So we build off of each other a lot. So
that's so cool. Oh my gosh. It's crazy that you guys just seeing like the success that you've had not only in wrestling, but now you're these like amazing people that are physicians, doctors. Is it considered
physician assistant? Yeah,
physician
PA.
assistant. Okay.
Not en route to be a doctor. We don't want to be doctors.
I'm not going back to school again.
No, we're both physician assistants. So we prescribe, we diagnose, we treat. I have some patients in my practice that have never seen Dr. Goose. We do a lot of what the doctor does without as much of the responsibility, I guess you could say. But I can still go to Dr. Goose if I'm like, hey, this guy has some weird labs. What do you think? I'm thinking this for a game plan. What are you thinking? What should I add? So I love it. And I work my job and I get to come home. I don't have to go to meetings and whatnot like with a lot of doctors have to do. So
no, that's awesome. That's so cool. Did you guys both like know that growing up, is that something you both wanted to do, or like how did it come about?
We had no idea what a physician assistant was until our junior year of college. And we did a lot of shadowing when we were growing up and coming home from college. We thought we wanted to be doctors. Well, we thought we wanted to be veterinarians, and then we learned a lot of what their job was. And we're like, not for me. And then, we wanted to be doctors, and then we shadowed, and we learned what a physician assistant was. And we're like, okay. I think I like this route, the freedom to see your patients and not just have to go in and out of a room. It's more so we can spend more time with our patients and have a life outside of the clinic hours that we spend. So we had no idea what a PA was until our college. And then that's when we pursued, okay, once we're done competing in college, we're going to pursue aspirations to become physician assistants. So
that's so cool. That is so awesome. So how long has it been since you guys have been physician assistants?
I've been practicing for a little over 3 years now. I'm like a little over 2.5. I'll come up on 3 years here soon. So we both started in the same class for PA school, but I had to take a medical leave, so I defaulted to the class below. But we technically took the board exam within the same calendar year. But obviously Marina started a little bit before I did, and then it so happened that we work for the same company, Sierra Pacific Orthopedics, and they said usually they don't hire relatives, but since Marina's going to be at the Clovis campus, I was going to be at the Fresno campus. She's in family med, I'm in hand surgery. They're like completely different areas, so yeah, we could hire you guys. So, and it's a lot of fun too, because like just yesterday I saw a patient and I'm like, hi, my name's Regina, I'm Dr. Keith's physician assistant, and they're like, yeah, I saw you at Dr. Goose's office. You showed me for my hand. And I'm like, no, that's my sister. And they're like, what? Like just completely mind blown. And so it is fun to mess with people. I should have warned them.
With that, do you guys, I feel like I do remember you guys were kind of pranksters. So you guys, have you pulled pranks a lot on people?
So in college, yes, even prior to college, we've pranked Julia a couple of times.
Spoons.
Julia Salata, our teammate, with spoons.
Yeah.
We've
had a lot of
not the
victims
card
in
game spoons. If anybody's playing spoons with us, they'll know. We've TP'd some, Travis. We laid like 50 or 60 water cups filled with water, like paper cups, on his desk. We taped Julia's shoes to the ceiling one time.
At Fargo,
We did some fun
Mike
stuff.
Duran, we put a big old tarp and TP'd his car.
Tell him what they say if you drop something in surgery.
Oh yeah, but if it's an ongoing joke in the because I do OR as well, and so like if I like am gown and gloving and I accidentally like tear my glove, they're like, "Are you actually Regina or are you Marina? Do you know what you're doing today and stuff?" I'm just like, "Guys, I'm actually Marina today." So we just make a joke about it. So because she doesn't go in the OR, so but yeah,
we would never switch jobs.
Yeah, we would never switch. The docs can tell us apart. So yeah, no. You wouldn't know what to do in hand surgery anyway.
No. Did you guys ever like switch in like a wrestling match, like check in as like one and wrestle for the other person?
No, we've never switched, but we have faked one match. And
I mean,
it was at California
finals.
State.
Yeah, we were in the finals with each other.
And it was the convention center state.
Yeah, we just were like, we're going to
didn't-
fake this match. We didn't really care. I mean, it
We
was the
just kinda
finals.
having
So it wasn't like CIF or like a national tournament. It was just like, let's just have some fun. But we didn't like Dragon Ball Z each other or anything like that. Like, no.
Like our coach thought it was real.
Yeah.
Isaac thought it was real.
No.
Really?
But yeah, no, we've never done
So
anything
you guys
like that.
You must have done it pretty good if he thought it was real. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. So like, do you guys, with that being said, like with your guys' matches, because you did have to wrestle each other quite a bit in finals matches. So with that being said, you guys were probably always going like full out then.
But yeah, we never held back when we wrestled each other.
Yeah.
And it's such a different mindset because it's one thing to wrestle your teammate, it's one thing to wrestle your sibling, but it's completely different to wrestle your twin. I mean, we know each other so well, so it's almost like you're preparing to wrestle yourself because we know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And it's hard, I mean, for people to understand that. And so at the end of the day, we're both chasing that national title or world team spot, whatever it may be. So we knew once, that whistle blows, we're competitors, But once the match is over, I mean, we're hanging out with each other. We don't hold grudges or anything. We know each one wants it just as bad as the other. So, and in the times that we could be co-champs, we were grateful for that. In college, that didn't happen. So we competed against each other our junior year, and then I forfeited to her our senior year, So I took matters into my own hands. They wouldn't give us co-champs, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to give her a title. I don't.
love that.
So
that's so cool. That's seriously so nice. Excuse me, that you guys, I love that the tournaments that you guys were able to be co-champs, but like it's so cool that you guys had the mindset of just being able to go out and actually like compete and not have it be something that you were holding grudges after and that it was this uncomfortable, awkward thing. It takes special people to be able to do that. And I mean, of course we can't understand if we're not a twin, but it's really cool for you guys to explain that mindset and how you guys actually were both like full 100% in your guys' own pursuit and then encouraging each other along the way, and whoever won. I think that's so awesome. So seriously, so cool to hear that perspective. And I want to know more, like for our listeners, your guys' experience with like growing up wrestling boys in California, because at the time there weren't like a lot of girls in California that were wrestling. So what was that like? And then the different maybe little milestones that you guys hit of different things that you guys got to do.
Yeah, it was. I mean, with growing up wrestling boys, it was just always an expected thing because there were never really any girl wrestlers. We grew up, it's male-dominated sport. It's not looking that way so much anymore, which is a good thing because women's wrestling has exploded. Yeah, and seeing all the opportunities they have now. But like, I remember when I was younger and there was this one match where I was beating this kid and he got really flustered and he stood up and he was like getting ready to swing and I like backed up. So the ref jumped in and separated us and he like disqualified the boy. And the dad was so mad, not at the fact that, that he was like standing up to punch a girl, but it was the fact that he got disqualified. And I was just like, what? Like, dude, you need to, girl or not.
Western Regionals. I think that was at Western Regionals, wasn't it?
So the one you're talking about was, I still remember his name. I won't say it on the podcast, but yes, he did actually swing because
that was free. That was a separate one.
That was in the finals. Yeah, I was beating him at Western Regionals. And he did go to swing, and I backed up, and he was upset because he lost, and I actually beat him at Reno Worlds as well. So he and I had a history, but it's unfortunate. I mean, but it's hard for the boy. I get it. You know, it's they beat a girl, they beat a girl. If they lose,
Sure.
oh dang, they lost to a girl.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, it's cool now seeing all the opportunities that girls don't have to wrestle boys, you know, and
Right.
and I don't know, people are indifferent about this, but it's cool to see the opportunities that were built. I mean, our first year in high school was the first time they had CIF in California, sanctioned state. But, you know, girls really, I mean, when they're younger, biologically, they're not that different. So, you know,
Yeah.
train with them, you know, learn for them. But
Right.
junior high, high school, it gets a little dangerous because they change, you know.
For sure.
Their physiology is different, their testosterone's higher. So, girls really don't have to compete against the boys anymore at that high school and junior high level. You know, when they're kids,
Right.
it's no different.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah,
we were
we had a
younger, that's
room
all we knew.
full. Yeah, like our coach would even, if we would go to tournaments and whether we would beat the boys or they would beat us, our coach would be like, hey, come train with us, come train with us. Doesn't matter what club you're from, doesn't matter what city you're from. So we had people from all over the Central Valley come over and train, and we would just all wrestle each other and get each other better, you know, no matter who they were. And it was, yeah, we some
looked
of the
for
only
competition.
Yeah, and like we were some of the only girls in that club. And then like Gracie and Aleda came along too when they got a little bit older and stuff. And so it was a great club. I mean, we were all just, I still remember Mondays and Wednesdays were drills, Tuesdays, Thursdays were live. We would have we would call it like beat up on whoever day, but for 2 hours straight, that person was getting beat up on and everybody would rotate in. And it was like
Gosh, that's
kind of like an
wild.
in college, we call it now grind matches, where
Right.
you know, we stay in and long match, or shark bait too was the other one. But yeah, it was, you know, and back then the boys, at least our teammates, like they didn't treat us as like girls and like take it easy or whatever. We were just another training partner. And there was one training partner in particular, Robert Garcia, that we trained with him so much. I mean, we would go sometimes in the summer from like 6 to 9 o'clock at night and just train and train and train and just, and his father always respected us. He respected us as just another group of wrestlers, not just, oh, you guys are girls. Like you guys are going to help my son get better. And that's how they saw it. And I love that. I mean, I couldn't see it as that back then because it was just normal for us because we were all some of the only girls. So it's nice to see how it's like, you know, seeing our nieces now, they have girl partners, and I'm like, that's awesome because it's not just boys, you know.
I think majority of their team is girl wrestlers right now.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat.
So it's wild to see the difference.
It really is. Like, it's crazy to go from being some of the only girls to now having like full girls teams and fully sanctioned events that are all for girls. And I think that it's really cool that you guys and I had the opportunity to wrestle with boys, because I think to a degree it helped in, you know, getting to the level, especially that like you guys did, was incredible. Do you feel like wrestling with the boys really pushed you guys to get to that point? And
Absolutely.
if so, then yeah, okay. And so for the girls that are not competing against boys, what would you give as a suggestion, since, you know, a lot of times they can't wrestle with boys now, you know, the ones that would want to get like the extra competition or whatnot, what would be your suggestion to them, or your kind of, you know, philosophy on that, if that makes sense?
I think, again, at a certain age, if they're younger, go for it, because I feel like with the boys, there's so much knowledge there to teach different techniques, and they give you a different feel. Again, as you get older, girls really shouldn't be competing against boys in high school and whatnot, just because it's different. And even wrestling in high school, girls have a lot stronger hips, you know, and so wrestling against the girls and understanding that once you're in high school, knowing how to compete against girls, it's a lot different. But growing up, I mean, when you're younger, I'm all for it, you know, wrestling the boys, and it's not for an ego thing. It's just simply to get more competition, you know? So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah. And to get tougher. I mean, shoot, I just had a conversation with my brother when, his oldest daughter started wrestling, and he was like, man, how do I get her tougher? How do I get her tougher? I'm like, you want the honest truth? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, she has to get beat up. She has to go wrestle the boys. She has to get her butt kicked, and eventually she's going to learn. And
she just has to keep coming back.
She has to keep coming back, and there's no shortcut around it. I mean, you just have to go in there and keep wrestling with them, and she'll figure it out eventually. And that wasn't the answer that he wanted to hear, was expecting. Like, he thought that, oh, could you show me something real quick? It's like, no, you just have to go through it.
There's no magic.
Yeah, the boys definitely made us tougher. I mean, they
sure.
just, like they molded us into who we were, and that's what we had growing up. So we use that, and there's still a lot of guys that we see, we're like, oh my gosh, they're competing and they went to this college, and I'm like, that's so cool to see them out and doing great things. And we all came from the same club, and we always talked about having like a reunion, because we had so many great wrestlers come out of our club, and it was just awesome. And it's great to see how they are now so successful too. So
yeah, that's seriously so cool. And I just love that. I love the advice of, if it's available to you guys, to go and wrestle boys when you're youth, because I agree with you guys. Like, I don't think that there's a big difference when you are that young, but high school for sure there's a big difference. And like for myself, I had jumped as a freshman from like being under 100 pounds to like 120, 130 pounds, and wrestling, you know, boys that are 130 pounds versus like maybe like a 103 or 106 pound boy is a big difference. And then, you know, it can be dangerous, like you guys said. So I actually don't know, did you guys, so since CIF was the first year you guys were in high school, did you get to wrestle girls in high school then, or did you also wrestle in a boys high school program?
Yeah, we wrestled girls in high school. We didn't even, so
we were the only two on the team.
Yeah, Kingsburg didn't have a girls wrestling team. We were the only two. They didn't supply like singlets or anything like that for us, so we my mom got us a singlet and put Doi on the back, and like that's what we competed with. And
fun fact, so 2011 was the first ever sanctioned California CIF state. And Regina was the first champion at the lightest weight class. It was 97 pounds.
Wow, yes, ma'am. I love that.
The first boys CIF state champion was, I couldn't tell you the year, 19 something. And his name was Bobby Contreras, also from Kingsburg High School. So Kingsburg High holds the record for the first boys and girls first ever CIF state champion, which is like such a cool fact that nobody knows. Like it is awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
We got to meet
him.
It's
a small town, right?
Yeah,
it's like a tiny town.
Yeah.
Super small.
It's like back then it was like less than 10,000 people.
Yeah, we got to meet Bobby Contreras and then Dan Jackson, another state champ from Kingsburg High School. We had a reunion and it was the coolest thing. And Bobby Contreras, back in the day, my dad was in PE class, and my dad was pretty much a dummy for Bobby Contreras, but my dad wrestled a little bit with him. Not competitively. He was just, like I said, a drill partner. So it's such a cool fact that, I don't know, I think it's awesome that not too many people know out there.
That's so cool. I love that. That's awesome. What a small world, and like crazy that you seriously just paved the way so much, like in so many different aspects, because now California has like some of the most competitive girls wrestling across the country. So for you guys to kind of be the start of that, and I honestly feel like there's so many girls that are so brand new to the sport that don't know the actual women that truly did pioneer the way, and you guys are like seriously such huge pioneers for the sport, and you guys did so much. So it's just so fun to have this conversation, to hear all these little stories, because you know, you guys are you're incredible. So I'm here fangirling over you guys, but seriously, so cool. I also wanted to know, so you guys made world teams, you made multiple national teams. What was that like, and what would you tell girls that are aspiring to make national teams? What was the difference that you guys were doing to help you get there?
So one of the things that I really was thankful from our coach in like elementary school, high school and stuff, he really focused more so on freestyle. And I feel like there are some schools that it's like CIF state is the ultimate goal, and it's like, no, you can go further.
Right.
Cleo, one of our coaches from our senior stuff, he was just talking about this too, and he was like, I never knew that there was stuff after state, that there's nationals and that there's worlds. He's like, what's nationals, what's worlds? And so also our freshman year was the first time that they had cadets, right? Mm-hmm. Cadet Worlds and stuff. And so we were like training for that, getting ready for that. Like folk style, we competed in it, but freestyle was what we really aspired to do. And just looking back on it now, I'm like, man, it was so much fun to travel and to do all of the things that we did, and to go to we went to like 15 different countries. And I'm so thankful that wrestling like did that for us, and it's given us so much. And so any opportunity we have to give back is what we try to do. So
we even took off our junior year from folk style wrestling and just did all freestyle. We did the USA Wrestling developmental camps back then, those were a blast. But advice for the girls, I think, number one, make sure you take a break. After, if you do the folk style circuit, in February or whenever your state championship is, take a break and then buckle in and focus on the freestyle and find people to train with. There's so many opportunities, and now there's the internet's available for a lot of folks to kind of tune in and look at technique videos and whatnot. So yeah, making those teams was so much fun to travel.
I wanted to know, as you were talking about, those were some of your favorite memories, what were some of the biggest, like, if you could pick one of the international trips that you guys went on, like, is there one that stands out to you guys, or were they all, pretty epic, or what was that like?
So I'd say the clip-on open in Sweden, that one was a lot of fun because...
That was in 2013.
2013, yeah, because it was a tournament, and then after the tournament, you had a camp. So you got to wrestle and train with people that were like in your weight class from all these different countries. And it was so much fun because even though we didn't speak Russian, we didn't speak, all these other languages, we knew the language of wrestling. And so it was really cool to go in and train with these people. And even though there's that language barrier, we knew that knowledge of wrestling and just getting together. I remember there was an instance where we were going to play a game, and this Russian girl is saying something. You know Emma Randall, right?
Yeah.
So Emma was leading the practice, and she was saying something to Emma, and Emma goes up to her and she's like, "I don't speak Russian," and like says it to the girl's face. And I'm like, "Emma, I don't know if she understands." And the girl's just laughing there. It's just so funny. But it's just like, it's like no other, because you get to do the tournament and then you train with them afterwards and stuff. So
cool.
Then we got to meet some of our future King teammates at that trip,
Yeah.
That was so much fun. We may have
That is so cool.
indirectly played a prank on Julia at that camp too.
Yes.
Which was, let's hear it.
So, okay, we didn't know at the time, but Regina and I shared a room, and we had each taken a shower, and there were like, I don't know, 3 or 4 people, and Julia, I think, was one of them, that their suitcases got lost at the airport. So Regina got to share some of my clothes because we're the same size, obviously. But Regina and I had just showered, and Julia was like, "Hey, Dois, can I use your room to shower? Because my room ran out of hot water." We're like, "Yeah, go for it." So she goes in the bathroom, and then she comes out. She's like, "Dois, you guys lied. You said you had hot water." We're like, "I swear we had hot water." And she holds it to this day that we pranked her, that we knew. We had no idea. I mean, you ran out, so.
She'll still deny it, and she's like, "No, they got me." And I'm like, "Wait, we had hot water."
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
and Julia,
times.
you are like still stay in contact with Julia? For like listeners, explain who Julia is for those that wouldn't know.
So Julia Salata, we met her when we went to Sweden. That was the first time we had met her. That was the first time she took the Doi picture with us, one on each arm. And she was actually the first person to put the idea of going to King University in our head. And so we would see her at numerous tournaments and camps and whatnot. So we got really close with her when we were in college. She was a senior when we were freshmen, and then she coached for a while there. We would have what we call Julia Sundays, so we would go out to eat and try to pack on weight to make the 101-pound weight class.
We have that Road to 101 sign in our kitchen.
Yeah. The last time, so we keep in touch with her. The last time we actually saw her, we went to New York last year. My cousin graduated from Cornell University, and so we spent like a week in New York City, and we hit up Julie. We're like, "Hey, we're in New York. You want to hang out?" So she came down. We hung out with her. We saw Emma Randall on that trip too. So,
That's so awesome.
The friendships that we make in wrestling, I mean, they're unparalleled. I mean, it's so cool to be able to talk to these people, and I can message them and they'll be there in a fly,
Right, yeah.
So it's such a special bond with wrestling. They're family. I mean, not just teammates, but they're family.
It truly is. Yeah, it's so different, I feel like, than other sports. And I don't know, I've talked with people about this. It's like, is it because you're, breaking like the touch barrier, where like you're with this person and you're, wrestling, and you're, giving your 110% trying to beat this person up, but then you're like buddies right after. Like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like the friendships and the family like bond that you have with the people that you're wrestling with is truly unparalleled, like you say. So that's a really cool experience that you guys got to have at that open tournament. And I got to go on a couple international trips, and like you said, the wrestling language, like you speak in the language of wrestling, it was always so fun being able to like, trade gear with, people from different countries, and get to like do Google Translate with them and try and like, just figure out what they're talking about, but still like being able to relate on just, the wrestling and the love of wrestling was so cool. So the fact that you guys got to go to like 15 different countries for wrestling is incredible, and I bet is, some of your fondest memories. And I also want to hit on, I remember so vividly you guys having to drink all these protein shakes all the time when I was staying at your house. So you said the road to 101, you guys were always, underweight class. So talk about that for us.
So I will fight anybody who says that cutting weight is harder than gaining weight. It's hard to gain the right weight.
Yeah.
The right weight,
yeah.
to gain that muscle mass. And I think it was harder for us because our frame is just so small. I mean, my parents are tiny, people who have met Mama and Papa Doi. So packing
Which they're
on...
the best, by the way. Just have to plug that in there. They're the best ever. Love them.
Yeah, it was just their 37th anniversary.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's their 37th anniversary, couple 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. They're incredible. I miss them. You'll have to tell them that I miss them.
Yeah, I'll tell them you said hello. Yeah, gaining weight was tough. I mean, our junior and senior year of high school, Type Mercury got us hooked up with some weightlifting coaches. And so we were lifting heavy, really heavy, trying to, pack on some weight. I think the heaviest I got to when I was in college competing was maybe 96 pounds, wrestling at 101 pounds. And then even when we competed against the seniors at 110, soaking wet, I was like 96 pounds. But we lifted, we were the only ones that did a density lift in college. And that lift was tough. Every Monday was 100 pull-ups in different forms. So the premise is you start with your 1 rep max and you do 12 sets of
12 sets of 2 reps.
2 reps.
Yeah.
And then it's a 12-week program.
Yeah.
By the end of it, you're doing 3 sets of 12 reps, I think.
Wow.
And you do 100 pull-ups. First you do 10 sets of 10, and then eventually by the very end of it, you're doing 4 sets of 25. It was a really tough program. I will never be as strong as what I was in college, nor do I ever want to be. It was hard work. And we had our weightlifting coach too, Frank Morgan. He was a bodybuilder, I think, or bodybuilder back then. So he really helped us out. And our coach, Jason Moorman, put together this program for us. And we were under the impression he might redshirt us our freshman year, but I'm really glad he didn't, because we just got in, did our 4 years, and got out, and my body's grateful for that. But it was tough to put on that weight.
The protein shakes and stuff, and trying to eat a ton of calories. It's
a full-time job. I mean, we had shakes after each weightlifting session and each wrestling practice that we would just, drink these shakes to try to pack on that weight. So it was tough. It was tough.
I bet. Yeah. And in terms of the competition, did you guys feel that when you were competing that you felt really, undersized for the competition that you were wrestling against?
So yes and no, because I think we grew up our whole life being undersized. We never really cut weight. Maybe for Worlds 2 pounds. I mean, I wouldn't even count that as cutting weight. So we were so used to it growing up. I mean, the senior circuit was tough. I mean, we could definitely feel it. We had to wrestle completely different, and there were certain moves we knew we couldn't hit. And honestly, by our senior year of college, we knew once they increased the lightest weight class from 105 to 110, we were going to be done. I mean, it was just getting too dangerous for us.
Sure. That's crazy. Yeah. Was that super disappointing when they increased that? Did you have hopes to continue, or what was that like?
It was just kind of, well, it is what it is. We were if they have a lower, because there were talks of them having a 97-pound weight class. And then once we heard that it was 110, we're like, well, we have we don't need to keep going on with wrestling. We knew we had our education. So we're like, all right, I think it's time to just purely focus on academics and furthering that and stuff. So, it was sad. Part of me always wishes man, what if they had that? We could have kept wrestling and been at the 97-pound and bulked up for that. But it is what it is, and I'm happy to continue watching wrestling as a supportive fan. But I'm it's I'm done.
So it was a happy ending. It was met with happiness.
Yeah, it was a happy ending. I mean, it was. We knew we weren't going to be wrestling forever. My mom was one that always pushed us with going to practice, even on the days that we didn't want to go. So I was thankful for that. And then my dad was more on the academic side of it. He always preached, you're a student athlete and not the other way around. So academics is always going to come first, because you could have some injury that could end your wrestling career, and you need to be able to have your academics, because nobody can take that away from you. And you're not going to be wrestling forever, so you need to have something that you're going to be heading towards afterwards. And that's when we went into the PA room.
That's truly so great that you guys were able to, I feel like at that point, especially with how committed you guys had been to wrestling for so long and had done so well for such a long time, that, seeing that they were going to increase the weight to 110, that could have been like a really disappointing, hard time for you guys. But instead, where you guys, it was instilled in you that, academics and life after wrestling is really important. I love that you guys were able to just, continue on and not have it affect you in a negative way. And, with that being said, I'm interested to know what you would tell people that, only have a vision for, wrestling being their whole life and, can't really see past the wrestling aspect of it. Maybe they're done with wrestling and they're having a hard time coming to terms with that. Do you guys have any advice for those people?
I would say it's hard because, if you look at the men and women that are at the highest level of the sport, to some degree they are obsessed with it, and you kind of have to be.
Yeah,
you have to be
absolutely.
selfish. You have to do what's best for you. And that's all they know because their whole life they're chasing these goals. Okay, I want to win nationals. I want to make the world team. Okay, I want to win worlds. And it starts all over again, But I think understanding that, yeah, you can't wrestle forever, and knowing that eventually your journey is going to come to an end. And understanding you got to figure out what you're going to do with your life. How are you going to bring in income? How are you going to sustain a lifestyle for yourself after wrestling?
Right.
And it's hard because a lot of the athletes, I don't think they have that visionary, and some do, and I'm sure they have plans that we have no idea about, which is,
Sure.
I'm hopeful, but it's something that is hard. I think it's a hard realization for a lot of people to realize when their time is going to be. And that's something they have to figure out on their own,
I think it's also important to for people to stay grounded too, and just wrestling can't be your entire identity. Sure, it's a big part. It's a big part of my life. I don't remember my life without wrestling because we wrestled when we were so young, but it can't take over your whole identity. Yes, you are a wrestler and this, there's got to be more to your life than just wrestling. You can't just be so encapsulated into it to where you can't aspire to do something else. So that's also important too. And that's what my dad really helped us with. And not that we were so succumbed to, I just want to do wrestling, but he was like, hey, you got to have something else afterwards too. You're not going to wrestle forever. Your body's going to catch up with you. Wrestling can't just consume your whole identity. There's more to it than that, than just wrestling. And, it's a great sport. I love it. Obviously we're all biased because we're wrestlers and stuff, but
sure.
you have to stay grounded and know that there's other stuff going on too. And so I think that's
absolutely
important.
Yeah, no, that is super important. And I want to know what your guys' what does life look like outside of wrestling for you guys? What are your hobbies? What are some things that you guys, that you're not just rooted in wrestling?
So we're both physician assistants right now. We work for the same company at Sierra Pacific Orthopedics. Outside of that, we have 3 dogs sitting on our couch right now that are 2 of them are like our children. One's my mom's that we're watching. But no, we love going target shooting, and it's summertime, so we'll go camping and still love to travel. We were talking about how we were just in Hawaii a couple weeks ago, and I want to go back. I will go back there. I don't know when, but we will make it happen. So
we got to have you come visit us while we're here.
Yes.
That would be so fun.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And if you want us to bring our wrestling shoes, let us know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, life is great right now. We're focused on paying off student loans and
just busy working. I take a lot of call. I'm actually on call right now, so.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Sorry, my dogs want to join the meeting.
Oh,
just
gonna please. Let's join. Yeah, let's have them join. Remind me there's Roxy, and then what's the other one?
This one's Roxy, that's my mom's dog, and this one's Chloe, my dog. So she's 10 years old, she's 12, and then Anakin's sitting over there.
Oh, Anakin, I love it. I remember we were just talking about this when I stayed at your guys' house. There was a bunch of Chihuahuas that were at your guys' house, and that was another thing that I remember is just the Chihuahua gang, and that's got to be just your guys' dogs, right?
Yeah. They're our babies. I don't have kids. This is my child.
I love it. That's so awesome. Okay, I want to kind of circle back to you guys were talking about how Julia kind of helped you guys in making the decision to go to King College, but what were some other factors that kind of led you guys into choosing to go to King and then your experience there?
So 2013, when we went to Sweden, we did a developmental camp for a week, actually at King University. which was really cool. And we got to meet some of the athletes.
We got locked in the wrestling room.
The door jammed, and
it was really hot in there.
We called Marina Sanchez, and she thought we were pulling a prank as per usual. And we're like, no, Marina, we're legit locked in the wrestling room. We need to get security down there. And they had to break the door handle off. And no, it was great. Meeting Jason Moorman was really cool. I mean, he was teaching us some technique there as well. And I remember playing ping pong with him. He was not happy that we beat him, but it was really cool there. But JM just, I mean, gosh, he really was so knowledgeable about this, and still is knowledgeable about the sport. And he really helped broaden our knowledge of just wrestling and diversifying our arsenal of moves we got to hit. He was a really big part of us going to King. And I'm really grateful to have had him as my coach my 4 years that I was there, because I would not have been the wrestler that I was in college without him. He really, really helped us along the way, not just technique wise, but the mental aspect as well. I mean, getting into that mind frame of, it's me or you, he used to tell me to watch John Smith videos, and he was like, you gotta have that swagger. And I was like, what? And he explained it to me. He's like, you gotta have that swagger when you're competing. I was like, huh, okay.
I
and
like
chip
that.
on your shoulder. That chip on your shoulder.
Like
you
don't want to be cocky, but you want to be confident.
You want to be confident. Yeah.
Right,
and
right.
it was to the point where, like, my senior year, I was like, okay, I don't want this person to go out of the first round with me. So I would try my hardest to try to get the tech in the first round. I mean, it was
That's
just
so
a mindset,
awesome.
the mindset.
Yeah.
These girls that I maybe struggled with against in high school, I was teching them in the first round when I was in college,
That's so
So
sweet.
Jason still is. We still keep in touch with him. He was awesome to have as a coach.
I love that.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's seriously, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to say that girls, I feel like it's really hard from, so starting a girls wrestling program, I had like 40 plus girls that, had never wrestled before. And so getting them to like understand, that mentality aspect of being confident and kind of having a chip on your shoulder of like, you can kind of, you want to go out there and, not necessarily be mean in an unsportsmanlike way, but we want to take it to this person, but then be a nice person off the mat. And I feel like that was a really challenging concept to be able to like teach that when, even in the practice room, like making it a competition of, take it personally if you get taken down, take it personally if like you're getting beat up on. And I feel like it's really hard sometimes for girls now to kind of grasp that, because that competition isn't, quite there. That mentality is a hard thing to, it's not natural, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We always talk about like, having that switch, you can be relaxing and stuff like that before your match comes up. But when you're, a few matches before, you're doing your pre-match routine and warming up and stuff, you have to be able to turn that switch on of like, all right, it's go time now, and it's time to get after it. And then you don't want that switch to stay on, because then your adrenaline's going to plummet and stuff. So, all right, now match is over, time to turn that switch off and try to relax and stuff like that too. So
for us, we had I don't know, with JM, this was never really said. It was just something that was done, is before every match, I would go and I'd slap his hand. And that was when my switch would turn on, So
Wow.
him and sometimes Julia or Travis, when they were in my corner, I'd slap their hand, and that was my switch. That was my mental switch to turn it on.
I love that.
And so, you have to do that, because at the end of the day, when you step on that mat, it's me or you. You're standing in the way of what I want, and I'm gonna do the best to put on my best performance,
That's so good. I love that. And the visual reminder that you had of like, slapping the hand is awesome, that your brain was able to be like, okay, that's my time to lock in. And I think it's important that girls have that sort of like switch, and even like a reset switch in their match of like, okay, if you're down big and you got to go, or you need to have like a reset, whether that's, the JB pulling up your socks,
pull up
or,
the sock, that's what I was
brushing off
thinking.
right, yeah, or like brushing off your shoulder or fixing your hair, whatever it is, like you got to have some form of, something that you do that is a visualization or a visual thing that your brain's like, okay, it's time to turn it on. You know what I mean? So I love that. That's so cool. And going back to like your college experience, I mean, you learned a ton from JM. You loved the program, all this stuff. Was there anything that like stood out about, King and your time there?
Hell Week. Jam would always start off with Hell Week, which is, it wasn't necessarily, so it was one full week of practices, and it wasn't necessarily like the practices themselves that were impossible, but it was just the compilation of, you have a 6 a.m., then you have an afternoon practice. One year he threw in a lift too, and I was like, Jam, this is awful. We were so sore. And you're just pushing these boundaries that you didn't think that could happen. I mean, one of the practices we had sumo wrestling, so you had to push each other out of the circle, and King's a small room. I mean, you're in this basement. There's padded walls and stuff. It's narrow, so if you get stuck in a corner, you're kind of screwed if you're doing sumo wrestling. One of them was Mockingbird. We had it was this residential area. It was like a 10-minute jog, and it goes up, kind of flattens out, and then it goes back up again. And at the very top is a stop sign. You can't even see the top of where the stop sign is. And it's just, I hate incline as it is. And the fact that we had to do sprints, buddy carries, like all kinds of stuff. And that was probably one of the harder days.
I think the other thing too that drew us to King was their biology program. I mean, we knew we were going to do something pre-med, so we majored in cell and molecular biology. And Dr. Ong was a great, I mean, he really, really helped us out academically. He told us what classes to take.
Because of him, we graduated on time.
Yeah. But I do remember specifically our chemistry/organic chemistry professor, Dr. Pickard, asked us on our first day of class, he goes, "Why did you come to King?" We're like, "Oh, because of wrestling." He's like, "No, you came here to get your academics. You came here to get a degree." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." So he was great professor. He was awesome.
Yeah. It was so nice too, because like living in Kingsburg, we came from a small town, and our high school graduating class was like less than 200 people. And then when we went to King, it was also a small school. So it's not like one of these big university, big campuses and stuff. So it felt kind of familiar and homey in a way. And I really like that, because it's just, there weren't like 100 kids in a class. It was like, on average, we had like maybe 20 kids in a class, and the professors knew you by name. It wasn't like you were another student. Like, you could go up and they knew exactly who you were. They could talk to you and stuff. So it was nice to have that small community, and everybody was there helping each other. I mean, King was just so welcoming, and just so it was just everything we wanted from a college. So we loved it. I mean, Dr. Ong, we call him like our Asian dad. I mean, we got so close to him. He was the head of like the biology and stuff, and he just, it's so funny because like he taught molecular biology for us our last semester of senior year. Until then, we hadn't had a class with him. And I remember it was the second semester, and he would tell us, "All right, Dois, I'm going to have you for molecular bio. There's going to be that student and teacher boundary, like we can't go out and eat and stuff like we used to anymore." And we're like, "Yeah, we respect that. Totally fine." And then it comes summer break or spring break, and he was like, "Hey, Dois, where do you want to go out to eat this week?" And we're like, "Dr. Ong, what about that professor student Barry?" And he goes, "You guys are leaving in a few weeks. You guys are graduating. Like, let's just go out and eat and stuff." So we're like, "Oh man." So yeah, we got really close to him. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So cool that you guys had so many people that were just like in your corner. You had great coaches that were willing to help you guys. You had, should we pause for a second? We can pause if we need to for the Bill pups.
Okay.
He's good now.
He's good now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anakin was pissed for a second.
He was a little mad. He was tracking down a cat.
He's got to do it. That's awesome.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's awesome that you guys had such a great experience, with coaches, with teachers. I think it's so cool because, with trying to get girls to go to college now, I was having this conversation with another person that was on the podcast just talking about, there's not going to be a perfect college. You got to go, for what you're, whether it's the coach, if you really like the coach, or if you're really, adamant about having the right partners, or if you're really adamant about a certain program, like you got to find what's going to be the best for you, and then, find that college. But there's no overall perfect place for everybody, if that makes sense,
Yeah, I mean, it's a place that you're going to be living for 4 years or however long, but so you want to make sure that it's a place that you can know that you can live in well. I mean, some people don't like the cold and they don't want to go to the eastern states where it snows a lot or anything. We actually liked it because it was neat to have a change of weather. And just, I remember we went to Indiana for duels, and we just had hoodies, and that was our snow gear. And it was like, God, in the single digits. And then Dr. Ong was like, "Hey, Joyce, where are you guys' snow jackets?" And we're like, "Dr. Ong, these are our snow jackets.
California.
We're from California." Yeah. And so
I would say for the girls that are interviewing for college, I mean, interview them, ask them what their priorities are. To try to figure out if that's going to be the right fit for you. And two, on the flip side, people will talk about, oh, that's a party school. You can honestly make any school a party school if you're around the wrong crowd and make the wrong decisions,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
keep that in mind. And I always tell my high school kids whenever they're going to college, I'm like, hey, if you have to ask yourself, should I be doing this? The answer is probably no. So that's like my best piece of advice I can give to girls going to college.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. And I do want to know what you're doing now with girls wrestling. Are you guys coaches? Are you like, how are you involved still?
So we've kind of stepped back this year. We were coaching at Selma High, and then we helped out with the youth program for a couple of years. We've kind of stepped back. We bought our house, and I think right now my nieces are wrestling, and then pretty soon my nephew will be wrestling. And for the first 2 years that my older niece Jade started wrestling, I told my brother, I don't want to coach her. I just want to be her aunt. And I want to be supportive. So for the first, year and a half, I was just recording her matches, and we'd give her a big hug, win or lose, but I never taught her anything. And I just wanted to be her aunt. We never told Jade or Layla anything that we did in wrestling. She's starting to figure out and put some pieces together because people want to take pictures, or
she's like, why do people want to take pictures with my aunties?
And so she's starting to ask,
cute.
hey, can we do some lessons? Can I learn some technique from aunties? So we'll do some lessons every now and then. And Coach Cleo, he owns a little gym not too far from where we live. So anytime he messages us, we'll go. So we've kind of taken a step back, and it's...
Well, we got practice on Monday.
Yeah. So I think, as much as we think we're done with this sport, we will never be, because my nieces and then eventually my nephew are all wrestling. So, and I want to help them as much as they want it. You know what I mean? I don't ever want them to think that whenever they're around us, they have to always talk about wrestling. And a lot of coaches look at me funny when I'm like, yeah, I don't want to coach my niece. And they're like, what? They thought that we'd been coaching her this whole time. I'm like, no, I just want to be a supportive aunt. There will be a time and a place for us to really, really show her a lot of technique and some knowledge, but
until then, we just wanted to enjoy it.
We just wanted to enjoy it. Yeah, have a good time.
That's so awesome.
She's getting to be a pretty good little wrestler. Layla's done a couple competitions as well, and my brother said my nephew Kai, he was stretching on the mat the other day. So we'll see. We'll see how.
Oh, I can't wait till Jade and Layla just go at it with each other. Layla's still younger; she's still learning, but she's like kind of the same weight as Jade, because Jade's a little one. And I'm like, man, the day that they actually go at it with each other and they're full on wrestling, I'm like, it's going to remind me of us too, because like they're partners and they're going to be wrestling with each other and drilling with each other. So, I want them to get along, but I also want them to challenge each other too. So there'll come a time for that. Yeah.
And that explains your guys' relationship like perfectly, getting along but also like pushing each other, which is so cool. And I would also I guess I'm wondering, with you guys saying that you wanted her to just like enjoy the process and just be aunties, do you think that same kind of mindset applies to parents and their kids? Do you guys feel like it's ideal for them to step back and just be parents, or what do you think their place is? Okay.
Yeah, and one big thing that differs between us and our nieces is like when we were growing up wrestling, neither my mom or dad wrestled. They never competed in wrestling, so we never had that pressure or those, I guess, I don't want to say expectations, but we didn't have those like just keep going to practice and stuff, and then seeing our parents at practice and everything, like to be as coaches. So I was grateful for that in that sense. But yeah, I mean, you push a kid really hard. It's wrestling is a grueling sport. I mean, was it Randy Miller said, if you haven't come to a point where you've actually hated wrestling, you haven't wrestled long enough. It's a love-hate relationship. It's a long journey. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And, I want to see kids enjoy the process and enjoy going to the practices and having that light bulb go off in their head, and not like, oh man, I have to go up to another practice. I don't want them to like dread it. I want them to go out there and have fun and enjoy being out there and enjoy, putting the shoes on, putting the singlet on, and not having that pressure of the expectation of I want to do this so that way I can win. I want to do this so that way I can make my dad proud. I don't want to disappoint them, because at the end of the day, they should be wrestling for them to have fun, because wrestling's a sport, and don't take it so seriously, because kids nowadays, I mean, we see kids, Jade had a kid in her weight class that was like 45 pounds that was cutting down to 40s at 7 years old.
That's
and
crazy.
I'm just like, that's not healthy for the kids.
No.
It's going to mess up their body, and just, yeah, there's time to cut weight when you're in high school, but not when you're
Sure.
7, 8 years old, you know? So,
Dang it.
I just say like have fun and don't take it seriously. You're not going to have college recruits going to your tournaments when you're 8 years old, you know?
Yeah.
There's a time and a place for it, and it's not when you're young and it's not when you're little. So, yeah, I think that they should like, enjoy it and stuff and take a step back and not take it super seriously.
Yeah, that's awesome. Marina, that's your thoughts as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, occasionally we'll have to tell my brother to take a step back
Yeah.
because he gets into it, and I think he's excited. But I have to tell him like, hey, remember she's 7, there's no
Right.
college coaches around here. So, and he does a really good job of that. And when he's at Coach Cleo's, he doesn't even coach, he sits back and he gives her water and that's that. He lets us and Cleo
Yeah.
coach her and Layla. And so, I think understanding too that it's people make it so important and they put all this pressure on these kids at such a young age. I'm like, just be a dad, be a mom.
Right.
You don't have to let the coach, So
Yes, that's so good. That's honestly such great advice for parents that are listening, because I think as parents, they're probably thinking that, the more that they invest and push their kid and like, do all those things that are actually, they're actually adding pressure to their kid, and their kid is going to end up hating the sport, or like having a lot of, severe anxiety around it, just because, they're worried about what mom and dad are going to think of my wrestling, instead of just, I'm doing this for fun. So I think that's such great advice. And I know we're getting close to being done with our hour, but I want to ask you guys if you'll end with what were maybe some trials or setbacks that you had in your wrestling career, things that you had to go through that you learned from and overcame, and if you'd mind sharing that with all of our listeners.
I would say for me, the biggest setback was probably my senior year when I had a really bad concussion. I had bumped up 1 or 2 weight classes and I had gotten knocked out. I mean, I was limp.
Wow.
They tried moving. I guess I didn't speak for 2 days. And this was maybe like a month before nationals, or maybe 4 to 6 weeks before the national tournament. And
Jeez.
they didn't want to clear me to compete. And I don't know, my athletic trainer, Rachel, she went and talked to the doctor, and I don't know how she got me cleared because probably shouldn't have been after a week
Right.
when I came to see the doctor. But I told my coach, I said, you know what, it's my senior year. I'm just going to give it everything that I could. And I told them, I said, JM, at this tournament, if you see me kind of struggling, I just want you to tell me a key word, 2 key words, and just say last one, and I'll give you all that I got. Because I was not in shape. I was,
Wow.
barely got cleared to wrestle. I was still kind of, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to, but got through it and couldn't have ended my senior year better the way we did with retiring and forfeiting my finals match to Regina. But Regina has
That's
a
so
bigger setback
awesome.
than I ever did. I'll let her tell her story.
Yeah, mine definitely had to do with I had a heart condition,
Right.
SVT, or supraventricular tachycardia, fancy word for just I had a really fast heart rate. There are some instances where I think the highest I clocked is like 289 beats a minute. And
Jeez.
I had that. I first got diagnosed. It was really hard for them to initially diagnose because we never had any family history of heart issues. And so when I would feel it, I would just feel like my chest feeling like it was beating really fast, and it would kind of hurt. And I would tell my mom, and we didn't really know. We would go to the doctor, but it wasn't when I was in SVTs. And they're like, your heart's normal. It's fine. It's beating
Right.
regular. I don't know. They were at one point thinking that I was like making it up, but I'm like, something's going on. So one night at wrestling practice, I think I was around 11 or 12, and I was drilling with him, and then I felt going into SVT. And luckily, my training partner, his mom works at a children's hospital in the cardiac unit. And she felt my heart rate, and I went up to her. I was like, Maria, my chest feels really weird. And she felt my heart rate. She's like, oh my gosh, I think you're in SVT. Drove me over
Wow.
to the closest like 24/7 urgent care thing. And she's like, we need to put her on an EKG so that way we can catch the episode. And like, they didn't even know how to put the leads on or anything. She's like, give me that. So she was putting it on me. They got it. I didn't know this until later when we shadowed this cardiologist, that she told him that I was her niece. And so he wasn't even on call that night, but he came down in the emergency room and he gave me, it's called adenosine. So it's supposed to like stop and restart the heart. And so I'm,
Gosh.
12 years old, didn't know any of this. It's at 289, going super fast. And the doctors are like, all right, go. And they slam the medication and it flatlines for a couple of seconds. And I'm just like, whoa, like, what the heck? And I guess the best way I could describe it is like, if you're walking down steps and you miss a step and you have that heart, like that drop sensation, it's like that, but persisting for a few seconds. So that's what it felt like. And then it would go back up into like the 60s. And I've had that a couple of times. Not a fun experience to go through, but and with wrestling with it, I had wrestled all my life with it. So I had to, I always had that fear in the back of my head that I would have that episode come on. And then there were some instances where I did. So it sucked because they're like, they say this whole thing about bear down and do this and that, but like you feel like crap when you have it. So it was just hard to do those things. So I had to cope with that and deal with that. And then I've done like 3 cardiac ablations. And then my senior year, beginning of my senior year, I was feeling the episodes again because they're like, you're cleared, it's done, it's over with. And then I started to feel like I was going back into it again. And my docs at Stanford, they were like, no, like we thought we got it. Well, let's put in this device called the loop recorder. So it's this small device that they implant into my chest and it records my heart rate. And then I have this button that I can press. And then it's like 2 minutes before and then like 5 minutes of the duration of me pressing the button. And there was one night when I was at practice and we were doing like a circuit workout and I was doing pull-ups and I was really high up. And when I went and I jumped down, boom, that's when it went right into SVT. So I was like, oh, shoot. So I walk over to where my trainer was. I was like, hey, do you have the keychain? So I got the button, I recorded it. And at that time, it was at like 260s or something. But I was still wrestling with it. So my whole senior year, I was wrestling with that device in my chest. And by the time we got to nationals, it was piercing out of my skin because it's wrestling, right? Contact sport. We were me and my athletic trainer were like trying to figure out how to protect it in a sense.
Right.
But, and then it changed how I wrestled too, because I had to be real cautious with not pressing up because it sucked wrestling with that thing. It was just, you have a piece of metal that's pushing on your chest and stuff. And so same thing. I was in JM's office, the week of nationals and I'm like, I don't know if I can wrestle with this thing. And like, it sucks. It's hard. I hate wrestling with it in. And he said it was up to me and he was like, well, what do you, I'm going to leave it up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do one way or another. And I'm like, all right, my goal is to All-American. Like, that's it. That's my main goal is to try an All-American. And then after that, just call it quits. And then, wrestling through, the morning that we were going to leave to nationals, Marina told me like, hey, if we both make it to the finals, then, I would forfeit to you. And I was just like, whoa, like I didn't think that she would do something like that. So selfless and stuff. And so we're wrestling and I'm, make it through my first match, my second match. And then I go my third match and I'm like, man, this girl I've never beaten before. It's a new day. It's 0-0. So go out there and try your best. And I have all these other things, these going in the back of my head with having loop recorder, not being at my 100%. And I beat her. And then I wrestle in the semifinals, close match, beat her. And I'm like, oh, shoot, like I'm in the finals. Oh, my gosh. And then that's when that whole thing happened with me and Marina, which looking back on it, they're like, oh, man, who would have won? And who would have won that match and stuff? And I'm like, I was in the best shape of my life. I think I could have beaten Marina.
That's the first time you've ever said that because you hadn't beat me since middle school.
No. I beat you in high school.
I like once, but
no. But yeah, so. But yeah, I was in the best shape of my life for going into senior year and stuff. I was going to like 3-4 day practices and stuff. So, but yeah, that wrestling with SVT, I mean, and then a few days, once we flew back from nationals, a few days later, I got the loop recorder taken out. I had heart surgery, like the cryoablation surgery that summer. And I'm free of SVT since, so I haven't had a single episode since then. So Stanford,
that's amazing.
They finally got it. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was a hard thing to go through. I mean,
that's incredible.
It was a lot.
Wow. Yeah. That story is just like so inspirational too. Like the fact that you were dealing with all of that, continued to push through, continued to, when you could have just stopped and you continued to go forward is seriously such an inspiration for people listening that, I mean, that's no light thing to be dealing with. So seriously incredible.
Yeah. It was, just looking back on it, I always have that wonder of, man, could I have pushed myself further? But like with having a heart condition, it's like I never knew when I was going to go into SBT. So I always also had that fear in the back of my head of like, oh man, I don't want my heart to go into SBT again because it sucks. It takes so much out of you and stuff. So, when, I'm just like, man, really, what would it have been like without having the heart condition? I'll never have the answer because I wrestled the whole time with it. But, I'm glad I'm done with it. I don't have to deal with it anymore. No more medications, no more loop reporter, none of that stuff. So,
yeah,
that was
that's so nice. What a blessing that that they were able to get that figured out and that it's not something that you deal with anymore.
Yeah, it was scary because the last, so the cryoablations where they like freeze the bad pathway that was causing the SVT. And so they're like, we could do the radio frequency, which is where they burn that part of the accessory pathway, but it was right next to what's called the AV node, which is like the pacer of the heart to send the electrical signals for the heartbeat. And they're like, if we screw up the AV node, you're going to go into AV block and you're going to have a pacemaker. So it was either it was going to get fixed or I was going to have a pacemaker. And the surgeon, after she came out, it was like a 4 or 5 hour surgery. And she came out and she's like, all right, I cleared my schedule. I'm done with the rest of the cases. It was a success. I'm happy to tell you that. So, and then I woke up from surgery. Yeah. And the first thing I did was like feel around and see, and I was like, oh, no pacemaker. Like, I'm good.
Was that something that throughout the process of that, like having, your twin sister by your side throughout it, like what was that like being able to have that support?
I mean, it was great. I mean, it was just having my whole family there was just awesome because there were some difficult times, having a heart condition and then going into SBT at times that, even during matches and stuff, it sucks because I would always ask the question like, man, why me? Why me? I'm this athlete. I'm doing these competitions and stuff. Like, why do I have to have this heart condition? Not that I ever wished anything on Marina, but I was like, well, I have it. Marina doesn't have it. I'm like, what the heck's going on kind of thing. So it was, my parents, my sister, my brothers, everybody was always so supportive, throughout because it wasn't easy to have. I've always told my sister, and other people as well, because Regina would ask why. And I was like, I feel like life is not about what happens to you. It's how you respond. Because we can't control the things that happen to us, but how are we going to respond to it? And that goes for anything in life.
Yeah, that's truly so good. Oh my goodness. I feel like this conversation could just go on for forever. You guys have so much knowledge to give. You guys have so many inspirational things. I mean, the fact that you guys, seriously, the accomplishments that you guys have in the sport is incredible, and the people that you are and how you've given back to the sport and just been role models to so many people, myself included. It's just, you guys are incredible. So thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation, and I hope to have you guys back on in the future because I just feel like there's so much more that we could get into. And
anytime.
Yes, I would love it. But for those of you that don't follow along, I'm gonna tag your socials so everybody can follow along and see what you guys are up to. But thank you for all you guys have done for girls wrestling, and thank you for taking the time to have this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe the next podcast we'll be in Hawaii with you.
We'll be over there with you.
Yeah, seriously, that would be awesome. Well, for the listeners, if you guys aren't already subscribed, then subscribe, like the channel, and listen to the weekly episodes. But thank you so much for tuning into the Pretty Tough Podcast.
1, 2